Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker. I've got a Chinese green, and I've got the usual way that I prepare teas here, so that all teas kind of get a fair treatment. But I've got one extra instrument here, one extra cup here. Show you an alternative way that can be useful. Not necessarily just to kind of show, not necessarily to use it for evaluations. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to scoop out enough of this Chinese green tea, cover the bottom, say inch and a half diameter of my about a 3-ounce gallon. Water's been brought to a early boil, started to rumble, so that should be good. I'm going to add enough water so a little bit will sit just above the rim of my lid. That looks good-ish. If not, I can always just add a splash more, which I will now do. I'm going to add it just on the top of the lid, kind of create a seal there. Now also, with my clear glass here, keep the fingerprints off that way, I'm going to add the water first. That looks pretty good. I want to have enough water in there so that you can actually see what's about to happen here, because this is one of the ways that this particular Chinese tea can be drunk. It can even be recommended to be prepared this way in some instances. Take out your, maybe a teaspoon or so there. Sprinkle it there across the top so that you can actually see the leaves dance. And by adding the water first and then dropping your leaves in, it theoretically, it allows the leaves to not get overcooked as much. They because the water has come into another separate vessel, and some of the heat has escaped, some cooling has happened. Then and by putting it in a clear glass, you can actually kind of watch those leaves dance up and down. You see, as they start here at the bottom, and you'll gradually see, like this one leaf did, starts to rise up towards the middle and up towards the top of the water level. So you can watch that, or you can listen to me talk about and evaluate this tea and introduce this tea. So that's what I'll do right now. You can try to do both at the same time. This is from Peony Tea of Singapore. This is the Pre-Qing Ming. Pre-Qing Ming is the way that you'll see it labeled in English. Now, in the Chinese, it becomes Ming Qian, meaning before Ming, before the Qing, which means before the Qingming festival. This is their Dongting Bilo Chun. Let's see, you can get 50 grams of this for 37 Singapore dollars as of time of recording here. This is from the traditional origin area of Bilo Chun. This is from the shores of Tai Lake, which is part of the larger area, the greater area of Suzhou, the city, within the province of Jiangsu province. So that gives us the background. Looking at the back here just to see if there's anything else. They recommend, looking to see, brewing vessel. It says, they're recommending either the gaiwan. You could do a glass, as they say, as I did, but they don't get into a lot of other detail. So ways that you may want to experiment. This particular tea is from 2013, before the Qingming festival, which would be, of course, April 5th. So now I'm going to look at this tea from the dry leaf, the wet leaf, and the liquor perspective, starting off here with the dry. Let's give this one a sniff here. Now, first thing that hit me, I have had Bilo Chuns. My experience of Bilo Chuns, this one relates to that broader experience, this was one of the fresher, lighter, greener. This one has more of the rich, nearly spinachy, maybe even a little bit of artichoke type. So this is nice, rich, tender green kind of smells coming off here. Sweet, nearly floral, light floral. I think of white clover. I think of English laurel. the tiny white flowers of the shrub of English laurel. Those are coming out light, sweet, but a lot of sweet green aspect to it. Scooping this out. Now, this has a range of colors. I see the silvery white color of the tips, which this is a very more delicate type of, Bilo Chun is a more delicate type of tea. You will notice that many of these are less than an inch in length. Let's say for the most part, for the most part, they are less than an inch in length because they are kind of curled along the nearly spiral type shapes along, so that they are young tips or young delicate leaves. You've got the silvery. You've got moving over towards a dark, a deep, rich type of green color there. A lot of times when I get Bilo Chuns, they are a much duller, drabber, paler even, older looking type of leaf. These still have a nice, deep, rich, and fairly intense looking green to them. So those are positive aspects. This one looks richer than than many others that I have seen. Okay. Returning that, now I'm going to go and set this to the side. Actually, I want to be able to kind of see that there. I'm going to get into the liquor and the wet leaf, and to do that, of course, I'm going to have to pour. So angle my lid over to the side, get my pitcher ready. A few leaves slipped through there. That's okay. Let that sit to the side. Let me give that a swirl. Put those side by side so that you can kind of be looking at comparison of colors in those two there. But while that's going on, I'm going to get a little closer look at the wet leaf here. Give this a shake, actually, and the smell. First thing that hit were more of the beanie type aspects, and those quite frequently occur with Bilo Chun and several Chinese greens. Because of the heat that's applied and the way that it's applied, it becomes almost a cooked bean, a bit of a lima bean, a bit of a kind of a deeply boiled green bean kind of smell. That's the dominant. As this cools, usually, the sweeter notes will come out. So now some of the sweeter is picking up in the areas of more of a closer to a spinach, closer to a more freshly, more sautéed green bean type of smell. Let me pull out a few of these leaves and look at those. Some are tips that have not unfurled, like this one here. Some are leaves or leaf portions that have unfurled, like this one here. So nearly a full leaf. Looks like the top got broken off. A little bit of raggedness on the edges. Let me pull out just a couple more. Another leaf that's a bit lighter in color than that first leaf I pulled out. A bit more of a green-yellow type of color. And, of course, more tips. Here's a nice, fairly delicate, tender-looking, quite new tip. Fairly pale yellow, pale green. Still probably had a lot of the whiteness of the fuzz on the, because it's harder to see the fuzz on a wet bud or needle like that. One of these leaves, a couple of these here and there, have a little bit of a dark patch, like a dark, tiny pinprick of a dark spot. Can't be clear as to. Looks more like that was a little bit of heat issue than oxidation issue. Now, let's see how this has gone. Most of those have unfurled and are now sitting on the bottom. Through the steeping process, they rose up a little bit and then fell back down. Let's give this liquor a look. Deep yellow. You can still see the filament, the fuzz that probably came off of those silvery colored, silvery fuzzy needles. That that fuzz is now floating pretty thickly in this liquor. Not to say that the liquor itself is dull or flat. No, it's quite a bright color to it. So let me give that a pour. Bit of a boiled corn, corn on the cob, the water kind of smell, the water that corn on the cob has been boiled in. It's coming off of the liquor at this point. Bilo Chuns are fairly well known, quite well known, one of the better known Chinese green teas in China, yet quite obscure in the U.S. My perception is much of that is that a lot of the good stuff stays in China. Secondly, the U.S. palate, the U.S. tea drinkers are not prepared for the level of astringency that can come in a Bilo Chun. Bilo Chuns, I generally find, have higher levels of astringency than some other Chinese greens. That is not a negative of, there's nothing negative to say about Bilo Chuns in general necessarily, but this particular Bilo Chun, it has the astringency, yet it balances well with the sweetness and the aftertaste, the initial sweetness that hits mid palate and moves to the back. So you get a snap of the astringency more towards the front, but then it mellows out. It comes into balance with the other elements of that sweetness in the aftertaste. And I should mention the texture. This one has quite a bit of texture, so it's got a thicker, nearly buttery type texture to it. The aromas still coming out as a bit of spinach, a bit of some of that artichoke popping up just ever so slightly, and some of that boiled corn coming out as well. This kind of tea can be steeped more than once. You would expect this particular kind of tea, you get a couple of steepings. You know, green teas are not going to get as many steepings as a oolong or especially a pu'er, but you can look for 2-3 steepings or so of nice, rewarding tea. Looking at this one as a whole, I'm going to give this one, like I said, one of the more aesthetically pleasing Bilo Chuns I've seen in a while. One of the more balanced as far as texture, astringency, and sweetness in the mid palate and aftertaste. There, I'm still getting the resonating sweetness there. So it's got a fairly rich intensity and duration. I'm going to give this one a fairly high score. 92 is a good number for this particular tea. So come back to Walker Tea Review to explore those teas that may be well known in their place of origin and in their home country, but are still relatively undiscovered here or for you.